Hello, folks. This is Ofori, producer of your favorite human interest chat show, The African Dream. We're just about 15 minutes away from the Washington, D.C., capital of the USA, and we have the privilege of having with us again George Bright Abu. George Bright Abu is the editor of the African Post newspaper. Today is a very historic day. Actually, it's a historic night, if I might say. Donald Trump has won the American election. I've known you for years, and I can tell you personally have not been a supporter of Trump, but he's now our president. How do you feel about that?
Well, no matter what we think of Trump, no matter what he may have said, the perception about him, one thing I can say is traveling the length and breadth of this country, like his son said today, has changed the Donald Trump we know. Because when you travel and then you speak to people and you get a sense of their experience, their feeling, yes, it really breaks you down to know how people feel about things. So I believe that it's been a learning experience for him. So he is going to learn something and he's going to change.
You said earlier on that he's the first person to run for the presidency of the United States of America who has never had or held any public office. He himself personally says he's not a politician. But here we are, he's now the president of the United States of America. Do you think he's ready to get down to business?
Well, sometimes you can be in a position, but it's not you running affairs. If he gets good advisors, I think he can be shaped up, and then he can be a good president. So I have a very positive attitude that Trump can make a difference, given the chance.
What do you think Africans would feel of him, since they have always known him to be the American billionaire?
Okay, one thing we should be aware is that Africans always gravitate towards Democrats in U.S. elections or whenever a U.S. president is in power. Yes, it might take some time. It may even be after his first term. Or we are yet to see his policy towards Africa. Because listening to Trump, he's never said anything positive about what he wants to do in Africa. So we are yet to see his policy. And then with that, we will know if there is any light at the end of the tunnel.
When you look at this reality, which I get the feeling Africans were not really in favor of seeing Trump become the president of the United States, but he is now. How do you want your children to see Trump? Based on all the negative things that has been said about him and also shown of him during his political campaigns, especially on American television.
Well, certain times it was kind of hard. Children behind the TV and listen to some of the things that Trump was saying, especially mocking disabled people, saying ugly things about women and all that. But I believe that what I can advise my children is to walk past that, take the good things out of him and ignore the bad ones.
There's still hope for America, even with the Trump presidency.
I believe it depends on the kind of team that he puts together.
Right.
Yes. And I believe there are sensible people in America who are capable of holding positions and running the affairs of the nation, and then who can better advise him. So it depends on the people he puts in key positions. And then with that, if he wants to succeed, I think it's going to be a good thing for him. Well, he's brutally honest, which is a very good thing for him. But the way he goes about it could be the wrong way, or maybe he's excessive about what he does. That's what comes out of him.
Right.
But with politics, people just fake. He's just being real, because politicians do not act the way they think. Yes, what they think in private, they mostly have two lives: private life and public life. But he is real. He's one and only Trump. Right. So I believe that's why he has a following. That's why he's won. So I believe there can be a difference. Yes. We've seen the real person, that's the way he feels.
Right.
And
right.
Yes, it also tells us a lot about him.
This day is November 8, 2016. Yes. And it's been quite a very interesting election campaigning season for the Americans. And we're going to talk a little bit about Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. This is a very historic election. And George,
Yes.
tell us, what is very historic about these elections?
It's the first time a female candidate is contesting. Now I look at my daughters. What message does it give to my daughters? Yes, there's hope.
Right.
Because we have come a long way where we come from, women were not even recognized, let alone aspire to greater positions. The world has changed. And we believe that with Angela Merkel in Germany, Theresa May in Great Britain, and then Hillary Clinton, and already the Liberian president,
right,
President Sirleaf, has already made a mark. She's proven that yes, when given the chance, women can also do it. So women should not be relegated to the kitchen or the living room as something, but they are also capable. They have the same brains. I don't think they have lesser brains than men. Just that they even have more strength within them. We have the physical strength, but they have some kind of inbuilt strength to be able to withstand challenges. So I believe that I'm excited that we are seeing this day. And also, on the other side, is the first time we have somebody who has never held public office, a businessman, and for that matter, a billionaire, contesting for elections. So on both sides, it's historic.
And let me throw this in. Another historic aspect of this US 2016 election is the very first black president of these United States of America in the person of Barack Obama. Now, when Barack Obama came to office in 2008, there was a lot of euphoria. There was a lot of excitement, not just among the African American community, but pretty much globally, especially in Africa. People had a lot of expectations and hope because they felt like Obama was going to, do a lot of things, especially for Africa. And his term has come and gone. He's going to be out of office pretty soon, and he's going to be replaced by Donald Trump. You, as an African who has lived in America for all these years, when you look at the performance of the Obama administration, what do you have to say?
Well, let me start off by talking about George Bush. When George Bush came to power, I think it was established that he gave more aid to Africa. He supported Africa more than any American president in history. Obama picked up from him and he continued from there. But Obama, with Hillary Clinton as the Secretary of State, I believe they brokered peace in Sudan. They gave a lot of aid to Africa. And then through Obama, we got the second tranche of Millennium Challenge funds for Ghana.
Right.
And I believe a couple of countries also got a huge chunk of the money from Millennium Challenge. So I believe he continued from where George Bush left off. And I believe that the U.S. policy towards Africa has not changed. We still have AGWA, Africa Growth and Opportunities Act, in place. And they're still pursuing that. So we believe in that it's going to get better. And then we're going to see a more developed foreign policy for Africa.
Now, a more developed foreign policy for Africa. When we look at Donald Trump, what do you think Africans think? You mentioned the fact that he's the first person who has never held public office to run for president in the history of the United States.
Well, comparing the two of them, you know that Hillary has been to Africa. Hillary has had some form of relationship with Africa. But we've seen some comments made by Donald Trump, written comments on social media that people have subscribed to him as the one who authored those comments. But we didn't see it on video or saw it verbally. But we know that he's not particularly friendly towards the African community because of his comments, and for that matter, the black community. He sees foreigners as threats from his statements. He wants people screened thoroughly. People don't have the same opportunities as Americans. It's a whole lot. So, judging from his comments and his demeanor, we know that it's not particularly, Africans are not particularly
excited about the presidency.
Yes, his presidency. Yeah. Africans are more geared towards Democrats running the affairs of this country than Republicans. So I believe it's going to be news for Africans seeing Trump as president.
It's interesting the way you put it. Now, before we sat down to do this interview, we went around town to talk to just a few people, most of whom had voted and had actually voted for Hillary Clinton. a few of them actually also voted for Trump. But basically, majority of the people that we talked to were supporting Hillary when they considered their status as immigrants here, and they were excited about what Hillary had the opportunity to do as far as immigration is concerned. When they compared it to Trump, they realized that Trump was anti-immigration and was more interested in building a wall, while Hillary was interested in building bridges. How do you personally feel about that?
Well, let me get a little technical here. You know that President Obama has nominated somebody for the Supreme Court. He was on the verge of passing the most comprehensive immigration law in America, but it was quashed by the Supreme Court. He's on the verge of appointing a Supreme Court judge.
You've observed quite a number of elections in this country, but tell us about some of the elections you've observed from the years you've lived here in America, and how different this is from those.
With the surge of social media and the communication gap being bridged, we see a big difference. But this has been the most ugly election campaign we've seen in our lifetime. Yes, going back to 96, when President Clinton contested with Bob Dole, it was different. Bob Dole was an older gentleman. There was excitement about Bill Clinton. And then fast forward to Gore and Bush. They were on equal terms. People didn't think much of George Bush, but he won anyway.
Right.
And then
you're talking about the Bush Jr.?
Yeah, Bush Jr. Right. Yes. And then coming to John Kerry and Bush. At the time that U.S. was at war, people felt like, no, during wartime we don't change presidents. So that was the notion, that we don't have to change president during wartime. And then that was the time Africans for that matter, were enjoying the highest home ownership in the history of America. So people were doing very well. Things were going on very well. So it was like, let's continue. And then George Bush won. Back to 2008, yes, everybody was excited about Barack Obama, a younger guy, somebody bringing change. And then we were heading to a recession. Things were not particularly good for the Republicans.
Right.
So the excitement coupled with the economic situation in the country, yes, catapulted Obama to the presidency. What makes this different is we have somebody Africans are not too much enthused about, not excited about, and naturally Africans gravitate towards Democrats. It was during President Clinton's time that this visa lottery. Most of Africans owe their existence in America to the U.S. immigrant visa lottery.
That's the diversity visa
lottery. Yes, diversity visa lottery. Yes. And then America enjoyed a lot of prosperity under President Clinton.
Tell us though, Ghana is also going to have elections next month in December. Tell us about what you feel, the Ghanaians should learn from this American elections.
Well, we did not come to America just to have education or to make money. We learned something new,
right,
that we can also introduce to our country. One beautiful thing, look at the way Hillary Clinton and Obama campaigned in 2008. It was very ugly.
Right.
It must have said things against each other. But in the long run, they were able to come together as a united front and work for the good of the country. It was the same thing with George Bush, the first one, and Bill Clinton. They contested. George Bush lost to Clinton. They came together during the tsunami. They traveled all over the world to provide support. They have become the best of friends. So what we have to know is political opponents are not enemies.
Right.
Which is different from what we do in Africa. We make it so personal that political opponents become enemies. We might be colleagues from the same university, but because we belong to different political divides, it becomes so personal, we become enemies. You don't even talk to the person, which shouldn't be the case.
Right.
So it doesn't call for violence. Let us accept the verdict as it is. One thing I would like to advise Ghanaians is, let us not complain about one party stealing the elections, rigging the elections, but we have to be vigilant on the grassroots. If we are vigilant, we wouldn't have the cause to suspect that the EC is favoring one party over the other.
That is the Electoral Commission.
Electoral Commission. Yes, people are already complaining. The Electoral Commission is being unfavorable. It is doing this and that. But I believe that we also have a role to play. We are part of the problem and part of the solution. What is required of us is vigilance. And if we do that, we will get good results from Ghana's elections.
So George is basically asking the Ghanaians who are going to be having their elections in December this year in 2016 to be extra vigilant and not take the political divide, not to allow it to divide them as well in their social lives. At the end of the day, these opposing factions are just regular people like you and I. So just be vigilant, vote on the issues, and don't be divided by politics. You're living in a very historic time. In fact, so are we all, which is coming directly off the heels of the first African American presidency. When you look at all this and you look at the future of America, where do you find yourself and what is your dream?
Well, Barack Obama is the son of an immigrant, right? He did not look at any thing holding him down from contesting the U.S. presidency. When we came here, it was like a taboo for you. It was just even unthinkable for you to hold a white collar job. We felt we belonged to the stores, washing dishes, but things have evolved.
Right.
Now, our numbers have grown. It's about time some of us aspire to political office in this country. Yes, there is hope. Let us nurture our children to be able to look up to. Yes, our children can be senators. They can be congressmen. They can hold political office in this country.
Thank you, George. We appreciate you joining us here on The African Dream, and we look forward to more amazing times in history as we live the African dream. Well, you heard it all from George Bright Abu, editor of the African Post newspaper. America has woken up to a new president, which is very historic. This country is coming off the heels of the first black president and into a new presidency era. We're very excited for the people of America. And George feels there's hope for America with a Trump presidency. He's lived here long enough to understand what he's saying, and we're here to observe how things go. As we travel into this new presidency of America, we wish Americans all the best of luck under Donald Trump, and we're looking forward to seeing how he leads the country and what his policies towards Africa are going to be like.